Can I ask what the response was like for you, the good and the bad, and maybe we'll start with the good. That podcast happened, and then is your phone just kind of lighting up for
Yes.
a fortnight afterwards, or
Yeah, so it went out. It was ended up being about 10 past 11 on that Wednesday morning, 28th of August. And you know what? You know who the first person was to message me?
Hmm.
So this person, and it was interesting to hear Isaac Humphries and to talk about he had no role models, queer role models as in basketball to follow. And, you know, for me, in my footy career, I had no other player. You know, that's why it was so important for the AFLW players to enter the competition, because they then became my role models, queer footballers in the professional that I could relate to. I didn't have a role model, and I remember halfway through my career, I think there was like this workshop that we had, and this picture came up in the lecture theatre, and it was Daniel Kowalski, the Olympic swimmer.
Yep.
And I grew up loving the Olympics, and I loved Daniel Kowalski and Kieran Perkins and how they used to verse each other in the 1500. And it was his story about his coming out story. And I know it wasn't initially positive for him. It was sort of forced out. But then he stood there, and in this photo was like, you know, I'm Daniel Kowalski, out and proud. And he just had this smile on his face. I like sat there in that lecture theatre. I didn't know him at the time. And I saw that picture and I was like, oh, I just felt something. I could see the joy.
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, oh man, like it's there in the future, or that's. And that was many years ago. And I was fortunate enough to cross paths with Daniel on a professional level. And the interview went out at 10 past 11, and funny enough, I got a LinkedIn message. That was the first message I got, and it was from Daniel Kowalski.
Wow.
And it was like, he didn't have the words to describe what it meant. And then he followed up with another beautiful message. And then for the first time, I let him know that he was my role model many years ago.
Mm.
And it was a special moment between myself and Daniel in those text message exchanges on LinkedIn, which is really fantastic because I was quite nervous, self-conscious about the reaction. And then these messages which became the most important. And, you know, I can really relate to what you read out with, you know, what Isaac said about the people in the street and the people and the little boy that's sitting there and that's confused about his sexuality but doesn't have anyone to talk to or relate to. You know, those messages start to come through.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the whole argument of the burden or the gift, and this is where it truly becomes a gift, because a lot of people, a lot of young people, a lot of middle-aged men that are in straight marriages, relationships, felt safe enough to confide in me and message me their story and their experiences. And I can tell you, there are thousands of those messages.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of messages. And how can you not read something like this when someone cannot tell anyone else in the world, not even their partner, not even their parents, their mum and dad, their best mates, but they felt safe enough to share this with me? Like, how can I not take this on? And, you know, those messages came through, and I made a commitment to write back and respond and take it on. And, you know, it took a toll. I want to be honest, it took a toll. But it just meant so much to me. And I remember there was this kid that in my local cafe that I would go down every morning and get a coffee, and I would chat to him. And then a couple of days after, I was sitting down, and he comes to me and he looks at me and there's tears in his eyes. And he goes, "Hey, Mitch," and he's crying, and he just goes, "I just want to say thank you. I'm a gay man, and you don't know how much this means to me." And like, his emotion, he was shaking, and I could tell what this meant. And that was when the enormity of like what I had done really hit home. And I've always maintained the fact that, I didn't do this for me. I was quite happily out within my own little friendship group and community. I'm straight presenting, and I've got a woman as a partner. I didn't have to do this, but I thought I wanted to shine a spotlight on, homophobia in sport. More importantly, whether you're queer or not, your ability as a man or as a person in general to be able to show up as you are.
Yep.
And not what people think you should be. And so many people just in their work environments and their sporting teams and their group chats and their family dinners that feel that they can't be themselves.